you would please come up to the podium there. You will have, I think it's 2 minutes. Is that correct? You'll have 2 minutes for public comment. And you are on.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Wesley Smith. I'm the Programs Director at Walk Bike Nashville, and I live in District 20. I'll speak in regards to y'all's agenda on RS 2025-1199. I believe this is a project related to the East Nashville spokes and some other bikeways in our urban core and in East Nashville. I think this is a great project. I'm fully in support of it. And I wanted to use it as an opportunity to contrast with some other community engagement that's going on and just kind of reference an email that I sent committee members a short time ago. Obviously, the infrastructure in this resolution will relate to the larger network, including conversations that are going on about the East Bank Boulevard. And in the email I sent to committee members, just hoping that this committee in the future can be a forum for a lot of those conversations. Spokes and the bikeways in this resolution had a great community engagement process, in my opinion, having been a stakeholder on that engaged residents, nonprofits, community organizations. And I hope that's type of community engagement we can see going forward with the East Bank Boulevard as well as it relates to our network in downtown and in East Nashville. So I'll let the email I sent speak for itself and not take up more of your time, but happy to answer questions and be in conversation with committee members as I can be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you for coming out. Any other folks out in the gallery seeking to make public comment to the committee? All right, seeing none, I will declare the public comment period closed. And I have a proposed consent agenda for us this afternoon. So I have all items on a proposed consent agenda except for committee item 5. There goes your 2 minutes. Committee item 5 is on the proposed consent agenda. This is RS 2025-1167. Committee item 6, this is RS 2025-1199. Committee item 16, this is BL 2025-812. And that is it. I have all other items on a proposed consent agenda. Do any other items need to come off of consent for question, comment, discussion, anything of that nature? I'm not seeing any members wishing to bring things off of consent. All right, so that being said, I will read the captions of our proposed consent agenda. All right, first on a proposed consent agenda, we have committee item 1. This is resolution RS 2025-1173 by Porterfield and Parker, a resolution authorizing the Nashville Department of Transportation and Multimodal Infrastructure to purchase and utilize surveillance technology available under a statewide multi-year cooperative agreement issued to Samsara, Inc. for the purpose of monitoring NDOT salt trucks in the public right-of-way in real time. Committee item 2, this is RS 2025-1174, a resolution authorizing the Department of Water and Sewerage Services to utilize surveillance technology under a cooperative master agreement with Rubicon Global LLC by Porterfield and Parker. Committee item 3, this is resolution RS 2025-1175 by Porterfield and Parker. This is a resolution authorizing the Department of Water and Sewerage Services to utilize surveillance technology available under a cooperative master agreement with Verizon Connect NWF Incorporated. Committee item 4, this is resolution RS 2025-1176 by Porterfield and Parker. This is a resolution authorizing the Department of Water and Sewerage Services to utilize surveillance technology available under a cooperative master agreement with Zonar Systems Incorporated. Committee item 7, this is RS 2025-1200 by Porterfield, Parker, and Gadd. This is a resolution approving Amendment 1 to a congestion mitigation air quality grant agreement between the Tennessee Department of Transportation and the Metropolitan Government by and through the Nashville Department of Transportation and Multimodal Infrastructure to extend the term of the agreement. Committee item 8, this is RS 2025-1201 by Porterfield, Parker, and Gadd. This is a resolution approving a donation of tire processing equipment and materials from the Civic Design Center to the Nashville Department of Transportation and Multimodal Infrastructure. Committee item 9, this is RS 2025-1204 by Porterfield, Parker, Allen, and Gadd. This is a resolution approving an agreement between the United States Department of the Army and the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County for Phase 8 of the Flood Preparedness Study in Davidson County, Tennessee. Committee item 10, this is RS 2025-1205 by Porterfield and Parker. This is a resolution accepting the terms of a cooperative purchasing master agreement for the purchase or lease of analytical instruments, supplies, solutions, and related services for the Department of Water and Sewerage Services. Committee item 11, this is RS 2025-1206 by Gamble and Parker. Excuse me. A resolution authorizing the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County to abandon existing public sanitary sewer main and to accept new public sanitary sewer mains at 3 properties located on Hickory Highlands Drive and Bell Road, offsite of the project location at 2920 Hamilton Church Road, also known as Autumn Lake Offsite Sewer. Next, committee item 12, this is RS 2025-1207 by Toombs, Gamble, and Parker. A resolution authorizing the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County to accept new public water and sanitary sewer mains, the vertical realignment of existing sanitary sewer main and new sanitary sewer manholes for 2 properties located at 3104 and 3108 Alpine Park Boulevard. Committee item 13, this is RS 2025-1208 by Toombs, Gamble, and Parker. A resolution authorizing the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County to accept new public water and sanitary sewer mains, fire hydrant assemblies, and sanitary sewer manholes for 2 properties located at Curtis Street, unnumbered, and 3031 Lawrence Avenue, also known as Clarksville Pike SP, Phase 2. Next, we have committee item 14. This is BL 2025-783 by Toombs, Gamble, Parker, Gadd, Vaux, Swara, Horton, and Porterfield, an ordinance authorizing the renaming of an unimproved portion of Tony Road to Lillard Lane. Next, committee item 15. This is BL 2025-784 by Welsh, Gamble, Parker, Horton, and Porterfield. This is an ordinance authorizing the renaming of a portion of alley number 1892 right-of-way from Meade Avenue to alley 1917 to Frankie Alley. Committee item 17, this is BL, excuse me. Committee item 17, this is BL 2025-814 by Eastlick, Gamble, and Parker, an ordinance authorizing the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County to acquire permanent and temporary easements through negotiation, condemnation, and acceptance for the Lynn Lee Drive Stormwater Improvement Project for 11 properties located on Lynn Lee Drive, Gale Drive, and Old Hickory Boulevard. Next, we have committee item 18. This is BL 2025-815 by Horton, Gamble, Parker, and Gadd. This is an ordinance authorizing the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County to abandon existing public water main and easement and to accept new public water mains, fire hydrant assemblies, and easements for 3 properties located at Centennial Boulevard, unnumbered, and 7475 Cockrell Bend Boulevard, also known as Maleta, M-A-L-E-T-A. Committee item 19, this is BL 2025-816 by Gamble and Parker, an ordinance authorizing the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County to accept new public sanitary sewer mains, sanitary sewer manholes, and easements for property located at 9835 Clovercroft Road in Williamson County, also known as Sagebrook Subdivision. Lastly, we have committee item 20. This is BL 2025-817 by Gamble and Parker, an ordinance authorizing the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County to accept new public sanitary sewer mains, sanitary sewer manholes, and easements for property located at Fly Road, unnumbered, in Williamson County, also known as Storyvale Phase 2. All right, having heard the captions of the proposed consent agenda, do any of those items need to come off of consent for discussion, comments, questions, clarification, anything of that nature? All right, seeing none, could we get a motion and a second on our, it's moved, can we get a second on the consent agenda? All right, consent agenda is properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the consent agenda? All right, seeing none, all those in favor of the consent agenda, please say aye. Any opposed? Any not voting? All right, recommend approval of consent agenda items 6, 7 in favor, 0 against, and 0 not voting. All right, that brings us to our first item that was not on consent. This is committee item 5. This is RS 2025-1167 by Druffel, Allen, Lee, and others. A resolution requesting the Metropolitan Department of Water and Sewerage Services make revisions to the Stormwater Management Manual to address stormwater drainage across Nashville and Davidson County by updating the infill tree credit and including multifamily structures as residential infill. Could we please get a motion and a second on this item? All right, properly moved and seconded. I will recognize the lead sponsor, Councilmember Druffel, first. Councilmember Druffel, can you tell us what's going on with this resolution?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Councilor Lee Quinn properly brought up some questions on potential language in the codes, and we went back and took a look at that, and I'm going to ask John to take a look at, or Water to sort of discuss that in a little bit more detail.
All right, so we've got a request for John Honeysucker from Metro Water Services to give us some information. Mr. Honeysucker, you are recognized at the podium.
Good afternoon, Council. I'm going to let Assistant Director Steve Mishu speak on that.
Thank you.
Greetings, everybody. Steve Mishu with Metro Water Services. Thank you, Councilman, for bringing it up. It did bring some questions up for us to discuss at staff level. At this time, we were wishing to move forward with the resolution so we could move forward and fix some of these gaps, with the understanding that we're going to be coming soon thereafter to change some of the ordinances to make it more clear for everybody as well.
Thank you. Councilmember Evans Siegel, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I guess I'm a little concerned because on April 14th, I sent several questions and none of them were answered. And now we're just being told to move forward with this without any real understanding of the scope. So I'm just going to ask those questions now. Do the requirements of residential infill only apply if the requirements of 1564-110, which is all other stormwater, do not apply?
So I think 110 is the issuance of building permits, and it's pretty wide ranging, and I think it does cover different items. I think the main issue involved is ensuring that the definition of residential is going to match exactly how we want to move forward with it.
Councilmember.
Thank you, Chair. I guess my question still stands. Does residential infill apply only when 1564-110 does not?
We agree that we've looked at it and it is a little bit confusing, and we do want to update the ordinance or 1564, the appropriate places to definitely consider that residential is more than 1 to 2 family dwelling units. So that way that that these multifamily units will still apply within the single family.
Councilmember.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, I think it's a yes or no question. So if you could just say yes or no in response to this question, that would be really helpful.
It's our understanding that we don't think it will fit exactly, but we do think that there is enough question that we do want to go back and look at it and adjust it.
Councilmember, yes.
Thank you, Chair. I guess I'm just really confused because the way the resolution is currently phrased makes the assumption that residential infill applies to multifamily. The way the code reads, residential infill is only 1 and 2 family. I'm pretty frustrated, if I'm being really honest, that now I got to do math. 17 plus 5 days, I haven't gotten any response. And now I can't even get a yes or no to this question. It is hard for me to be okay with this resolution when the resolution itself misstates the code, misstates the administrative application of the code, and doesn't make clear at all what we're trying to fix or what we're really looking at. I understood based on conversations before when I got here today that Water was also a little concerned with some of this language, but Water hasn't responded to let anybody know that as well. I don't think this is ready. I think we do need to look at this issue. I really appreciate my colleague bringing this because I think we are treating small 3 and 4 unit buildings worse than we're treating gigantic single family. And what we're seeing in response to that is that gigantic single family buildings cause a lot of stormwater issues that, as Councilmember Druffel, I think, experiences in his district. And infill is being held to a much higher standard just because it has 3 one-unit bedroom apartments in it. But today, it's really hard, given that I can't even get a yes or no to this question that was asked over 20 days ago
Sure.
to move forward with this.
My apologies. Right now, we're not holding the 3 to 4 unit dwelling units to a higher standard. We're actually not holding them to any standards, which is not what we want to do. We want to be able to hold smaller developments that are 3 and 4 the same as 1 or 2.
Councilmember Evan Siegel.
Thank you. I mean, I specifically asked that question and was not able to get an answer because my understanding is almost all buildings, which are more than 2 units, fall under the commercial regulation. And if it turns out there are no stormwater regulations for those, that's going to be a shock to every developer in town.
So the regulations would apply to those that are over 10,000 square feet and meet that move more than 100 cubic yards. There's another threshold in the regulations in volume 1, section 3.4.3 that dictates when is a commercial property subject to the grading permit requirements.
Councilmember.
I think what's frustrating here is the code is pretty clear that 3 and 4 units are treated as commercial. And I hear a lot of tiptoeing around about water regulations, but fundamentally, a building is a building. Again, I'm just not in a position to support this today if it's not real meaningful reform on stormwater. Impervious surface is impervious surface, and rain doesn't care how many people live there. They don't care how many units there are. The only thing water cares about is how much of the ground is covered. Our code doesn't talk in terms of how much of the ground is covered. And while I applaud efforts to fix that, this resolution doesn't talk about that. It talks about it in very different terms that actually have nothing to do with what water cares about, which is how much ground is covered. So I'm just, Chair, not going to be able to support this as it is today. I leave it up to if the sponsor wants to defer it and keep talking about it and come back with better language, I'm open to that. But I certainly, as it stands today, don't think it fixes the problem that water has, which is water doesn't like impervious surfaces and has to go somewhere. And that's the problem we haven't fixed.
Thank you, Councilmember. I'm going to go to John Honeysucker for a response, and then I have a comment as well. Mr. Honeysucker, you're recognized.
Councilor, thank you so much for your comments. One thing that water is committed to is making sure that we answer the questions that the council offers. And we're also committed to sitting down and having individual meetings, not just with me, but with our whole team to make sure that we have a clear and concise understanding and that you're understanding that we are addressing the needs and the requests that you submit over to us. We have had a chance to sit down with Councilman Druffel and also with the chair. And we're also committed to open that same offer to you to sit down with you directly, one-on-one, to have this conversation along with the staff so we can make sure that we address your questions, because we don't ever want you to feel that we're not addressing those.
Councilmember Evan Siegel for a brief response.
Yeah, just real quickly, Chair. I mean, I was given that offer last time, so I sent the email and received no response. So I appreciate that offer, but it has to be meaningful and timely to matter. And here we are 3 weeks later, and this is the first I'm hearing about this follow-up offer to meet about it.
Thank you. So I just wanted to share a little bit about what my understanding of this resolution is. And the resolution is asking Metro Water to do a couple of things, which is to update the tree credit as well as bring more than 2 family builds into the regulated infill category. I think that bringing smaller multifamily builds into regulated infill is a good objective. The resolution asks them to do that via updating the stormwater management manual. And it sounds like from comments from the sponsor and from water folks today that they now believe that there might be some code changes that are required to achieve that goal. And that also, I think, gets into the points that Councilmember Evan Siegel brought up about the code not necessarily reflecting what is being requested of the department here. And so that is my understanding, and I'm seeing some heads nodding in the back. Is that a reasonable assessment? I'm seeing heads nodding in the back. So what we have before us is a resolution requesting them to do those two things via the Stormwater Management Manual updates, but we now understand that there will likely be attendant code changes to achieve that goal. So that's where I see that we're at with this resolution right now. I also had Councilmember Rollin Horton in the queue, so I will recognize Councilmember Horton.
Councilmember Druffel might have been in front of me. I think you said what I was thinking, so no comments on my side.
Thank you, Councilmember. I'll go back to Councilmember Druffel.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Directionally, this is the way we need to go. I believe these two objectives are solid. It does require some language, but again, this is a resolution asking them to investigate and to come back with some information. So it's not a code change or anything in that mind. So, I understand Councilor Quinn's concerns, but at the same time, I believe we can get the same results by just asking them to come back, which they've already acknowledged they will. So you summarized pretty much the two objectives, and I think those are consistent. This has been 3 to 4 years and doing studies, et cetera. It's not like we need to do it tomorrow, but we do need it after you start to see so many of the people that are suffering from excess water and, increased impervious surface. The impact, cumulative impact on houses is getting pretty serious. So I do think we need some legislation and some direction very quickly. And that's the purpose of this.
Thank you, Councilmember. So I see Councilmembers Allen and then Horton. Anybody else seeking to be recognized at this point? All right, I'll go next to Councilmember Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to thank Councilmember Druffel and the folks at Metro Water just for how hard they've worked on this, because it has been a long journey, and it's something that every council member hears about from their constituents. So I'm glad we're continuing to keep pecking at it. I would like to speak specifically about the tree credit piece of it. The Metro Water folks have been very kind in meeting with me several times just to talk about very specific things like the formula that will show up in the stormwater manual. And I would just like to go on record publicly saying that we have an opportunity to use that as a tool to preserve very large, very mature trees, which are a real asset in Nashville. And I think that the current formula that I'm seeing is a good step in that direction, but it's not totally there. So I just want to go on record as saying I'm glad we're doing this, and I hope that they will continue to work with me on adjusting that formula to acknowledge that there's more value to saving one huge tree than 2 smaller trees. So I just want to get that on the record.
Thank you, Councilmember. I have Councilmember Horton in the queue. Yes, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you to the sponsor for bringing this. We have a lot of stormwater issues in our district, in District 20, as well as just like our friends next door in District 23 do. I appreciate the goals behind this resolution. I would like to receive, I think, perhaps fuller answers to Councilmember Evan Siegel's questions. And if we could get those in writing, perhaps before the next council meeting, it might be helpful. I appreciate Councilmember Druffel mentioning that we don't have to rush. It's been a number of years in the making. I wonder if a 1 meeting deferral might be appropriate to allow us time to consider this fully in light of hopefully written responses to Evan Siegel's questions that could perhaps be distributed to the committee in advance of the next meeting. So with that, I'd like to move for a 1 meeting deferral, please.
All right, we have a 1 meeting deferral has been moved by Councilmember Vice Chair Horton. Do we have any discussion on a 1 meeting deferral? All right, I'm seeing a thumbs up from the lead sponsor. Any further discussion on 1 meeting deferral? I'll go to the lead sponsor.
Yeah, I think we want to make sure everybody feels comfortable with the direction. I think by all means, this is some pretty critical information and some things we need to take action on. But by all means, we want to make sure it's right. Again, it's been 3 years. I think making sure that everybody's comfortable with the language going forward. Again, this is a resolution. It's not meant to change the code at this point. But 1 meeting to make sure the questions are answered and make everybody comfortable, I'm fine with.
Thank you, Councilmember, for introducing this and for all the water folks who've been working on it. So I really appreciate the discussion, and I think we're in a better place to be better prepared for the next meeting. So With that, any further discussion on a recommendation of a one-meeting deferral? All right, seeing none, all those in favor of a recommendation for a one-meeting deferral, please say aye. Any opposed? Any not voting? All right, we recommend a one-meeting deferral. 10 in favor, 0 against. All right. Next, we have committee item 6. This is RS 2025-1199 by Porterfield, Gamble, Parker, and Allen. This is a resolution approving Amendment 1 to an intergovernmental agreement between the Tennessee Department of Transportation and the Metropolitan Government by and through the Nashville Department of Transportation and Multimodal Infrastructure for the acceptance of work in connection with the installation of separated bike lanes in East Nashville. Could we get a motion and a second on this, please? All right, it's been properly moved and seconded. I pulled this off of consent. Just if we could get an explanation from NDOT about what this amendment does for the agreement, and then any information about timeline on this project. Is there any federal funding consideration for this project? This is something that's been in the works for a very long time, and cyclists in and around East Nashville are very much looking forward to. So I will go to the public podium to recognize Matt Purvis from NDOT for an explanation, please.
Thank you, Chair. Matt Purvis, the Council Liaison for the Department of Transportation. So this amendment, all it does is increases the construction. It increases the amount for both us and TDOT. Ours goes up by a larger amount, but we have a significantly larger match for this project than we normally do for federal funded projects, which is at 43% instead of 20%. The overall increase in the funds is mostly due to the fact that when this project was awarded as a regional transportation improvement project, it was back in 2018. And not only has there been a lot of time since then, but there's also been changes to the design that have been more to industry standard for physical concrete protection, and it basically upgrading the plans over time. So that overall, that sees the increase of the construction costs for both shares. Regarding the federal funding, this amendment does not address federal funding at this time. It is just adjusting the construction costs. I believe we're still waiting to hear back firmly on that federal funding piece of it, but this project specifically does have multiple funding sources. One being local, which is in partnership with GNRC. The other being a surface transportation block grant, which is from the state by way of the federal funding, or by way of the federal government. And we're looking to subsidize a lot of that with the grant we're waiting to hear back from the federal government to begin with. But without that, with or without that, the project is moving forward. As far as the timeline, so we're in the middle of design now, which is why this is moving forward. We're in conversations with TDOT to make sure we're moving forward on design. So roughly a year or so until construction is what we're looking at. There still has to be right-of-way purchasing done, which is, variable depending on the circumstance. But in design right now, looking to move towards construction over the next year or so.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on this item? All right, seeing none, we'll go to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Any not voting? All right, recommend approval, 9 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. And our last item for consideration is Committee Item 16, BL 2025-812 by Parker, an ordinance amending Chapter 6.72 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws to update requirements for taxi cabs. And we also have an amendment on this one. Can we get a motion on the bill, please? All right, properly moved and seconded. Any discussion on the bill itself? We also have an amendment that we need to move. All right, Council. All right, the amendment's been moved. Could I go to our council for a brief explanation of the amendment?
The amendment changes the term from smart meter to smart taxi meter in the definitions, because that is the term that's used throughout the document.
All right, thank you. Any discussion on the amendment specifically? All right, seeing none, all those in favor of the amendment, please say aye. Any opposed? Any not voting? All right, recommend approval of the amendment. Is it 10? 10 in favor, 0 against. And so now we have, if we could get a motion on the bill as amended. All right, properly moved and seconded. Any discussion on the bill as amended? I see Councilmember Evan Siegel.
Thank you, Chair. We hear a lot, I think I'm probably not alone in hearing a lot of complaints about taxi cabs in particular, particularly at the start of the term. I think there were a lot of safety issues around them, and I was just hoping that the department could explain what they're looking to do here and how that might affect our system currently.
Thank you. I see Matt Purvis from NDOT returning to the podium. Mr. Purvis, you're recognized.
Hey, Matt Purvis again. So this bill, it allows for the use of smart meters in our taxi cabs, which currently in the code does not allow for the use of smart meters, only the standard, more physical hardwired meters. Regarding safety concerns, smart meters do absolutely help with safety concerns. It is more akin to your Uber, your Lyfts, to where you're tracked the whole way. There's a lot more transparency with ridership. There's a lot better tracking of drivers, and requires an app and requires just better transparency overall on both sides of the fence. So this one, it doesn't necessarily directly address safety in totality, but it certainly helps.
Thanks.
Thank you. I had Councilmember Coopin next, and then Allen. Councilmember Coopin, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to sponsor for bringing it and to NDOT for working on this. I echo Councilman Quinn Evans Siegel's sentiment that the taxi cabs have been an issue. Obviously, in my district, it's a big consideration, so I appreciate the efforts to have these smart meters. One of the biggest issues we see is people getting in cabs and they're told a flat rate that's not legitimate, and they're paying substantial amounts of money. So I know NDOT recently had put out a campaign and want to echo that awareness of making sure that when folks get in a taxi cab, they're looking for the meter sheet. There are certain things that you can look for to make sure that you're being charged legitimately, and happy to share that out. I'm sure the department will be as well. I'd also asked about making it a mandatory smart meter versus an optional. My understanding is that they wanted to start with optional, or Transportation Licensing Commission wanted to start optional and then kind of phase it in, but really encouraged by these efforts. I want to continue working on that as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Allen, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Picking up on the safety thing, I put an article in my newsletter about fake taxis that had been sent our way, but just to review how a citizen would know whether they're in a real taxi or a fake taxi. Does a smart meter, I mean, now when I get in and I see that standard thing that you expect to see in a taxi, I know that I'm in a real taxi, I think. But if Mr. Purvis could address, if a smart meter is just a phone app and now we're not going to see that physical thing, or if it is something that we will see that we know we're in a real taxi. If you can just sort of address how it can make us safer.
Mr. Purvis.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So for taxi smart meters specifically, there is still a physical meter inside the car, more so than your Uber, your Lyfts. But instead of it being hardwired into the vehicle to where it measures instead of it measuring the revolutions of the wheels and stuff to keep track of the car, it's real-time GPS. So it's a lot more specific as to where the rider is, where the taxi is, and it does include those sort of safety features that your apps do, where you have verification of the specific vehicle and verification of the rider and things like that. Way more levels of security than your standard meter right now.
Thank you for that explanation. Any further discussion on the bill as amended at this time? All right, I'm seeing none. All those in favor of 812 as amended, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any not voting? All right, recommend approval, 10 in favor, 0 against, and 0 not voting. And folks, we are already running quite a bit over time, but we do have, no wait, we're here till 4:30. Excellent. Thank you all for scheduling us with enough time to complete this meeting and not run into planning. We do have a presentation scheduled from NDOT, an update about Traffic Management Center direct-to-constituent traffic alerts. So do we have, I thought we had a presentation up on the screen. Do we just need to hit a key there to bring it back up? And any folks from NDOT who want to join us to talk through this new option for Nashvillians, that'd be great. All right, it looks like we've got our presentation loaded for our guests, and I will turn the microphones on, and if y'all would please introduce yourselves and tell us about the program.
Hi there, I'm Courtney Stone. I am the Director of Strategic Communications, Policy, and Legislation at NDOT. I see many familiar faces. If you don't know me, I'll come say hi after we're done, and I'll let Nandi introduce herself as well.
Hi, I'm Nandi Nkoa. I am the Traffic Management Center's Public Information Coordinator at NDOT.
Nandi is relatively new to the team, so go easy on her today, is my request. We're here today to talk about text to subscribe traffic notifications. This is something that we have been asked a lot about as a department. When are we going to have this feature? When are we going to have this feature? And as many of you know, we launched our Traffic Management Center last October. And this has been kind of a natural outgrowth of that TMC being up and running. Our goal is to not just rely on earned media, not just rely on a social media algorithm to get information out to folks, but to be able to communicate directly with them. So basically, this function is exactly like you might receive from other whether it's a political campaign or a company trying to sell you something or a nonprofit trying to raise money. These text to subscribe platforms are often successful in directly communicating with people who opt into the system. And so this is going to be an opt-in system that Nandi will be taking you through. And our goal with this program and this platform is to start relatively small with the types of notifications that we're offering and grow the program over time. So I'm going to have Nandi walk you through the types of events right now that would warrant notification if somebody opts in.
So when traffic-related events happen in the city of Nashville, right now we're kind of putting out anything that's a crash or a hazmat spill. I know I've sent a few to some of the people in this room. But specifically for this feature, because we want people to stay, we want them to stay opted in. We don't want people opting out because we are spamming them with every little traffic event that happens in the city. So we'll be notifying people who opt in for events involving hazmat spills and other environmental hazards, any unplanned events that closes roadways or creates unsafe environments, mass traffic events related to planned special events. So think the CMA Fest, 4th of July, all of the big events that happen in Nashville. And these events have been identified as impactful to traffic when at least one travel lane on a multi-lane road is blocked for more than 4 hours or the roadway is closed fully in any direction for over 30 minutes.
And I do want to say this is most local surface roads. This is a lot of the roads that we drive on. This does not include interstates. TDOT has their SmartWays system that sends out notifications, alerts folks to issues on our interstates. So this is focusing on the main roadways that most of us are traveling on a daily basis.
So the platform that we will be utilizing to push out this text to subscribe feature is Public Input, and it's a community engagement resource. However, we will be using it specifically for traffic messaging. So generally, the community engagement uses Public Input to push out surveys and other information. However, this will be a text resource that will be able to push information and not receive information. So an example that we put on the screen is if you lived in East Nashville, to text East Nash to the 73224 number, and from that you will now be opted into the messages. The subscription areas were identified by the community plans map. If you look at one of the screens, you'll see the different areas that we have and the code words that you would text to that same number, 73224, to subscribe to an area. The reason that we used the community plans map is to make it the easiest for citizens of Nashville to subscribe to an area. I know that sometimes it might be difficult for people to find their district, but I think that myself and another team member figured that it might be easier just to go off of area alone. And here's a map of that. Also, I'd like to point out that people can subscribe to more than one area. So if you lived in Jolton, but you commuted to downtown Nashville each day, you would be able to subscribe to Jolton, Bordeaux, Whites Creek, North Nashville, and downtown, so that if anything happens on your commute or before your commute, you can plan ahead on your trip into the area that you're going to.
Can you go back for a second?
Yes.
And I do want to say, figuring out exactly how to break the county up was a little bit of an art, not a science for us. Because if you create the areas too big, people are getting a lot of notifications that aren't useful to them. If we tried to go by Metro Council District, having 35 districts, it's a pretty small area. And so we needed kind of an area, a breakdown that had good area coverage, but wasn't so large that people were getting tons of unnecessary text notifications. So we figured the community plans map calls neighborhoods by things that are pretty identifiable to folks, and it's a good breakdown of the county.
So this is just an example of what subscribers will see when they opt in. They'll get a message from NDOT, verifying that they opted in to receive messages and directions on how to opt out. And I just provided an example of a type of incident that might close a roadway and would warrant that text notification.
This does not and will not replace emergency notifications during an emergency event. So this is intended primarily to give notification about, like Nandi went through that list, hazmat events and issues that are impacting the right-of-way, but it does not replace the OEM system that's going to let folks know about whether that's severe weather or other types of impactful emergency events. Okay, so I'm just going to walk you through. We're here with you today. We are presenting this to you and hoping for any feedback that you might have on the platform. We have a pretty ambitious rollout schedule for this because on May 10th, we have a really busy day in Nashville. Some of these events impact districts that you represent. A lot of them, I know, Councilmember Cooper, and they're in your district. But May 10th is a day that we've been talking about around the office for a while because, Nandi, we have, 6 large special events happening in the city near our downtown core on the same date. And this is kicking off a really busy summer in Nashville. We're going to have several dates like this where we just have the convergence of tons of mass traffic events at once. And so our goal is to launch this platform on Wednesday, May 7th, so 2 days from now, probably a little less than 2 days from now. And get folks signing up, opting in to subscribe to traffic updates. We'll release it via press release, earned media, kind of traditional platforms, social media, but also would rely on you all as district council members and at-large council members to spread the word about this. Get your residents signed up, get your constituents signed up, because we know that May 10th will be the first big test of the summer season. We're going to be pushing out lots of public information around best practices, special events best practices for May 10th, but this is a really important piece of the puzzle for us. And that is all of the presentation planned information we have for you, but I'm happy to take any questions, and myself and Nandi can answer them.
Excellent. I see Councilmember Benedict. Anybody else want to get in the queue at this point? Councilmember Benedict Evans Siegel, thank you. All right, Councilmember Benedict, you're recognized.
Thank you. I don't want to ask any hard questions, but what are the winning lotto numbers? No, I'm just kidding.
Bring it on.
All right, I know. So you mentioned state roads aren't a part of this. Does that include state roads like, for instance, Gallatin Pike north of Briley Parkway? Will that be included?
That will be included.
Okay.
So basically, just think about your big, heavy interstate roads. Those are the ones that will not be included.
What about Ellington?
Ellington,
I know, I'm putting you on the
Ellington and
spot.
Briley will not be, I believe.
Okay. And then it'll be text only, no calls, right?
Correct.
Okay, that'll be helpful as compared to
It's
the
just
emergency
my voice
system.
recorded saying, hey, don't come downtown right now.
You know, you're a good District 7 resident. I'm glad to use your voice for anything that you want. And then for me to help push this out to the community, I actually would love to kind of select maybe 10 people from the district to say, hey, sign up, try this out, give me feedback before I, send it out to the masses. I want everybody to use it, but I'd love to get a smaller group within the district. For when I do send it out to the larger group or even the smaller group, is there an infographic or something that you'll share with us so that we can push that out?
Yes, and we're happy to send you all an email communication tomorrow, and you can have a little beta testing on your own if you'd like. And then you can find all the problems before we go live with it. That would be ideal. So we'll get something pulled together. We do have our infographics and everything ready to roll out. We'll get it to you tomorrow and have you share it to a select group.
Last thing, Chair, just a piece of feedback. Thank you for not doing it by council district. I think that would just not make sense from an end user perspective for them to understand and think of, their commute by council district, but rather by part of town. I think that was a wise choice. Thank you.
I will add to your previous question about
Lotto numbers?
I wish. But to you're testing it out within your district. So sometimes it's dependent on how many events that we have. So it could be a week before an event occurs. So I just want to keep you.
Maybe we'll send a test event out tomorrow.
Yeah.
This is a test. We can do
Well,
that.
I actually think that that's a valid point. And so in my group of 10 that I may select, as I'm thinking about this, I'll ask them to sign up perhaps for the whole city or, for different areas and show them how they can sign up by texting that part of town to the number.
Yep.
Great feedback. Thank you.
Councilmember Evans Siegel.
Thank you, Chair. Councilmember Benedict, you can add my mom to your list. She's a really good beta tester. Sure she'll give lots of feedback.
She's good at finding the problems.
Yeah. She'd be delighted to test this. I want to thank y'all. I think this is very much needed. You sort of answered my question, which is, can you go ahead and send us stuff early with the promise that we will wait to share it until you've hit live so that we can digest the information.
For sure.
I know this is a fun week to start because this is, I think, a reminder. Vanderbilt's graduation is this week, and Midtown locks up Thursday and Friday and Saturday. So everybody be forewarned. Don't go through Midtown if you can avoid it, like the south side of it. You've really picked a nice, challenging time to start.
Summer in Nashville begins now.
Thank you, Councilmember. This seems super great, and thank y'all for putting this together and making this option available to people. I do wonder, you guys covered state routes or interstate closures, specifically interstate and freeway closures, and that TDOT has this SmartWays system. Something that I find in talking with folks about state routes versus metro routes, somebody's concerned about a pothole, and I ask them to report it, and then you start explaining the difference between state routes and local routes, and their eyes kind of glaze over, and they're like, why are you telling me all this stuff? I just want the pothole fixed. Yeah. And this is another case where I wonder, is there any, maybe in the future, exploring the possibility of kind of integrating the interstate and freeway stuff with this system so that Nashvillians can kind of have more of a one-stop shop than oh, if you want alerts, you can go sign up for this thing and then also go sign up for this thing. I don't know if that's feasible, possible, but is that something that you guys have maybe taken a look at in this initial phase and maybe would be able to take another look at as the program is rolled out and we know we can successfully handle the local stuff. And if you could just speak to that a little bit, please.
Yes, and I don't want to commit us to anything. I'm looking at Brad back there. I do think that that is something that in order to be the most effective in the future, we probably are going to have to explore. And TDOT's been a great partner to us on many of these types of projects and very much a great partner when it comes to standing up our TMC. Brad, do you have any?
I'll recognize Mr. Freeze in the back.
Yes, Chair. So that is a great question. We've actually talked to TDOT about that and have, over the years, there's been some pilots in which we shared information into their smart waste system. So there's opportunities to tie the two systems together. We're actually going through the process of developing what we call our new central software system within the TMC, where we'll have these integration points to tie the two together in there. So we hope in the future it'll become more and more seamless as far as how you're receiving information between us and TDOT.
That'd be fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I know that from my personal experience, I try to pay a lot of attention, but sometimes I will find out about a major interstate closure the night before because WSMV was kind enough to post it on their website. And, you know, that changes everyone's weekend and it can be very challenging to keep track of all that and try to share it with constituents in a timely manner. So if that integration would be great, but I mean, this is a great step forward and I really appreciate y'all getting this together.
Thank you. And I do want to plug SmartWays. It's great. And I do want to plug that TDOT does a great job. Their strategic communications professionals have social media accounts where they are constantly updating interstate traffic conditions. Give them a follow, give them a boost if you can, because they are constantly pushing out traffic information.
Excellent. Thank you. Any other questions, comments, discussion for our friends from NDOT? All right, I'm seeing none. Thank y'all so much for joining us to talk about this new program. And it is right here at 4:30, so I will call this meeting adjourned. Thank y'all.